about getting divorced and a little bit of the hoe phase.
I've not tried a sip of any alcohol or a puff of any drugs. I never did that in high school. I never did any of that. And I was a virgin when I got married, and I was just kind of like, aw, I missed out on all of this. Okay, so once we moved in, it was kind of a rude awakening of like, woo, we have 7 kids.
I don't even know what I think about marriage. I have to figure that out. But I did know, like, I'm not marrying somebody until we live together. That we're both ex-Mormon. We both got married really young. All right, so we're gonna talk about the unconventional way that we met and decided to live together. And we happened to meet while I was still married, but It's not what it seems, but we'll get to that, okay? Here we go.
So when I met Aaron, it was actually on the Facebook dating app, and I know so many single people use the dating apps. I had gone like a few months without them. I felt very overwhelmed and kind of defeated with dating. It got like to a stopping point for me of like, oh, I'm just desperate for this like stability, and I want a masculine and feminine energy under the same house, helping me raise my kids, like feeling like I just wanted something more stable. And I actually ended up just crying and falling on my knees and praying. And I was like praying to God, like, please help me find a good man. And I surrendered and just closed my eyes and like scrolled through all my matches. And I selected one with my eyes closed like this. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh, he looks so playful and kind.
Thank you. What was the first thing you said to me? I think you said that. You look so playful.
I did. I literally messaged him first like, oh, hello, love. You look incredibly playful and kind. That's what I said to him.
Yeah, and I had been dating not as long as you. So my ex had moved out about a year before. And there was a lot of strange back and forth and stuff, but we were both dating, me and my ex. And I decided to date when I saw a big, off my debit card, a big payment to a family law office. And I'm like, well, what's this? She's like, oh, I paid a lawyer to file divorce. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go date, because we'd already been separated for a long time. And so I dated a few people, and it's funny, you have all these expectations, like, I'm never going to get married or get into a serious relationship. I'm just going to date. I've got to date 100 people before. And then I met Elisa, and it's interesting how all the rules kind of disappeared. They went out.
It's really true. I had a lot of like ground rules, like I don't want to get married again until I'm 30. I don't want to get an exclusive relationship. And I actually had a lot of men pursuing me, being kind to me, bringing me gifts, taking me on dates.
No,
and it was hard because I just didn't want to put all my eggs into one basket. And I've actually never had an exclusive boyfriend before. I am a very like free spirit. I do not like to be held down. And it was nerve-wracking to me to feel like, whoa, this is an unusual feeling that I wanted that stability and that safety and just like needing my person so badly. And being able to find him on Facebook dating was literally the best day of my life. It was actually April 11th, which is today.
It's our anniversary of meeting.
We're celebrating a year of meeting. It's really exciting.
So I saw this little message, and I'm like, okay. I'm liking it, going through pictures. I'm like, okay, I like this vibe. I was also very skeptical about being catfished. So I'm like, okay, how can I see if this is a real person? So I found, it's nice on Facebook dating. It'll tell you if you have friends in common. So we happen to have one friend who's kind of a distant friend of mine. So I looked at this person's profile, went through their friends, and I found you. And I'm like, okay, this is a real person. And I saw some of your pictures. But yeah, reached out, and what did I say?
He was so sweet. He was just telling me like, because I have on my dating app that I'm only looking for air signs or fire signs. And he was so funny because he was like, I'm a Gemini. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. I love Geminis. Any Gemini I've met, they are just so broad with their personality and they're just so entertaining. And that would have been like my worst nightmare, is to have like a boring boyfriend.
Well, it's funny too, because when I started dating, that was kind of my year of, I'd been super rational and very in my head. I was like, this is my year to just like, I want to live by astrology and whatever. And so I had actually dated another Aquarius. So Elisa's an Aquarius. And I knew that Gemini and Aquarius was a good match. So it was interesting. I mean, had this been a month or two earlier, that would have not made any sense to me. Like when I first got on the dating apps and it'd say like cancer, I'm like, oh shoot. Like I didn't get
They must have cancer.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
It really is interesting because I was a little bit skeptical about the zodiacs too, but my ex was a Pisces and I dated 4 Pisces. And it was weird. I just kept getting Pisces in my DMs. And like, the more I learned, like, okay, this is my 4th Pisces I've been dating. I wanted to see, like, my mom is a Pisces and my dad is a Gemini. And it's actually very common statistically, people will marry their parents' sign. And so it's just a unique thing that I was like already looking into. I'm a very heart-centered person. Anyone who knows me, I'm just free-spirited, heart-centered. I have a lot of self-trust about my spiritual beliefs. And it's really fun that like both of us together with our unique minds, when we matched, he instantly was like, can I call you? And I love that. Like the structure of like a scheduled phone call. Because everyone knows if you've been on dating apps, you're not going to get to know someone over text. Like,
seriously,
texting back and forth.
When dating, and I was always like, I'm a talker. And so I'm like, I want to talk with this person and see if we can have a good conversation. And before we don't need to go on a date if we can't have a phone call, really. And so the other thing too is I felt like I got maybe catfished where, yeah, I went on a few dates. I'm like, okay, you are not the person on your profile pictures, but you know, that's good. So anyway, we're talking on the phone and we ended up talking for like 8 hours.
Seriously. Like
not the first time, but we kept talking.
Yeah, the first time was probably like 2 hours and I was just like fascinated. And I actually was crying on the other line. I don't know if he knew that, but like everything he was sharing with me was such a spiritual connection, was such an emotional connection. I was like stunned because I didn't know if we'd have a physical connection. I didn't know if we'd have chemistry, but just through that phone call, I was actually just crying and tearing up and feeling extremely emotionally moved by his process of dating and his process of the divorce and just feeling radical compassion on him. And I was so grateful that he was so vulnerable to share about his divorce process because I had just gone through that like not even a year earlier. And it was like bringing up so much past pain of like, I haven't dealt with my divorce yet. And hearing about yours, it's bringing up this to process it now. And I was really grateful because then there was another night we talked on the phone till like 4 a.m., which was like 8 hours. And he was like, I need to meet you. And I'm like, yes, you do. And our first date was so fun. I'm so grateful for him because he lived about 40 minutes away and he drove to me and brought me my favorite smoothie. I love smoothies. And that he just came to my house and brought me that. It was like a very nurturing gesture. And I was so grateful.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, maybe going back a little bit, that we're both ex-Mormon. We both got married really young. Mm-hmm. And so I got married to the first person I dated after my mission. That's my ex. And there's a whole other story there. But you got married very young. And it was interesting.
19.
Yeah, I'd been in a relationship for 16 years. Pretty much all of my adult life, I had been with the same person. And there's something interesting as I was dating about energy and where you can't, it's hard to put your finger on, but just energetically when we met, there was just a chemistry. There was like a magic. And it's like, okay, I don't know what this is.
It was like his soul was home.
Right?
It was so good.
And it was, for me, it was after a while just feeling like, oh, this person gets me. I don't have to like explain why. I just want to do music and create stuff. You just get it. Other people don't get that. And you don't. Yes. And it was just like this. I didn't have to change myself. I was very, I think in the dating too, just honest. I'm like, look, I'm not super organized. And I could tell you weren't very organized. I'm like, that's fine.
I'm not.
I'd actually rather, if I was just somebody who's like OCD, clean freak, it'd be a source of a lot of contention. So that just kind of lined up. We just have kind of chill personalities. We do have an intense side. So there's just a lot of...
There was a lot of just similarities in our values and our beliefs and our morals. And talking to him, even about like my spiritual beliefs and my growth with life and all of this, psychology and philosophy and just being able to get into those deep subjects with someone. I'm like, I don't want it unless it's so deep. Like I need to hear everything and take it in and just like we're fusing cells if we're going to be together. Like, I want to know everything about you, all of your childhood memories, all of your spiritual experiences. And that's like alarming to some men. I don't think they crave that amount of depth or crave that amount of like intimacy. And it is really intimate. It's like the root word of intimacy. It's like, into me you see. And I remember on our first date just looking into his eyes and being like, oh, this is so powerful. I couldn't believe, like, I was tearing up, like already just crying how much my emotions were moved. And there was nothing really like that big that he was doing for me. It was just an energetic connection, and it was special.
When we'd meet too, because we'd have a lot of like head connection, I think, talking over the phone. And I found it was important too. It's like, can we just like not talk and just look into each other's eyes or just cuddle?
Yeah, like when we'd get together, we would just have like silent days where we'd put music on and just be able to feel the frequencies that were so aligned together. That was just like feeling like you were home, like this amount of safety and this amount of just like nurturing care that you were like, wow, I feel protected with this person. That's like a really hard thing for a young woman dating out there. I was always like, I don't feel safe. I don't know this person. But the minute I met him, I was like, I know you.
And I kind of like to take it. It was interesting. When I first started dating, it was just kind of, I found helpful for me, and this is my personality. Like, I didn't have any rules. This is just for me when I started. It was just like, I'm going to go with the flow and just feel it time by time. Because I feel like sometimes people get into dating like with this objective. Like, I'm looking for my one and only true, and it comes with all of these rules and baggage. And I find it helpful to just like let go of a lot of that and just be with the person and take it, especially in the beginning, a day at a time, and just there's no like ulterior motive. You're just getting to know this person and just have. It's
really important, especially for the women out there. I have a lot of single girlfriends, and you have to make boundaries and rules, I think, more so as a woman, because I didn't at the beginning. And then you learn with more dates, you can narrow down like what you're looking for, what you're wanting. So at the beginning of the year, I actually went to a sound bath where before we started, the instructor had us write down a thank you letter to ourselves for achieving all the goals that we've already accomplished that year, which is a really unique thing to be like, instead of listing your goals, you're going to thank yourself for already finding that success, for already being in that achievement energy. And
to be clear, there were new goals. Like, you hadn't yet accomplished them, but you're writing the thank you letter as if you had. Okay.
Yeah, as if I had. And it was really powerful because I never really I never knew what I wanted in a man. I didn't really like have so many rules or boundaries about like what I'm looking for. I'm just kind of like putting myself out there and seeing what works, like you said. But I wrote a very distinctive letter of like, these are the characteristics, these are the traits, these are the morals, this is what I would love and appreciate. And it did kind of come down to like, I don't want to just be loved. Like, I want to be respected. I want to be understood. I want to be nurtured and cared for. I want to be celebrated and honored. And that's hard because in relationship, love is not enough. Like, you do need that respect. You do need to be honored and celebrated by your partner. And so I had a very beautiful list for myself of like what I was looking for. And I think that really helped me to be able to manifest him. Like, honestly, manifested this miracle of a man that's so perfect for me.
It's interesting. I remember we were talking, and I had the realization that we all create these checklists in our head. And we're talking about, I think you're saying like, you're talking about how you're like not judgmental or something. And I was like, BS. Everybody is judgmental, and you subconsciously, whether you know it or not, you're going to go through life and create a list of what you want in a partner. And this comes it's not just from people you've dated, but every person you meet, I feel like. Subconsciously, you're just, I like this, I don't like that, I like this, I don't like that. And that was interesting as we were just laying there talking, and I was going through my list, and it was kind of weird. It's like, okay, there's been a lot of people I've been attracted to in my life, and like, if you took their positive traits and made like a checklist and put them into one person. That's you. This is weird.
I love it. It is. It's almost just like that law of attraction of whatever you're attracted to, you can be magnetic to if you really put an intention towards it. So it was really awesome to meet him and be like, oh my gosh, you're this miracle of like everything I could have ever hoped and dreamed for a partner. And you just are here, like landed in my lap. I just get to like receive you now. It's so nice.
I love it. So we had some interesting synchronicities too. So for example, I'm the youngest of 9 kids.
I'm the youngest of 8 kids.
And we have 3 sisters who share the same names.
Literally, we have more girls than boys in our family. My sisters' names are Rachel, Rebecca, and Sarah.
And I have a Rachel, Rebecca, and Sarah in my house. Both of
Crazy.
the other thing, both of our moms' maiden names is the same.
It's Carter. It's the weirdest thing. His middle name is Carter. And like when I found out, I'm like, wait, that's your mom's maiden name? That is so crazy because my mom's maiden name is Carter. And we also have on my side of the family a grandma Lala.
And I have a grandma Lala. Well, there's a bunch of... Anyway, so we did go check the genetic stuff. We're like, hopefully we're just not related.
I know. We did like the 23andMe. Like, I don't know about this. Because there was just so many strange things. Like, his oldest brother that his sister married, his last name is Polson. That's my maiden name. It's spelt Polson.
Yeah, so she's related to my brother-in-law and the same family.
Yes! We both have Grandpa James Polson. It was hilarious. Like... It just, the more we dated, the more it came along. Like, I'm talking, my son's name is Oslo. And he's like, I have a nephew named Oslo. I'm like, that is such a unique and strange name. That is I love unique names. I'm like the Utah mom that does the unique names. But I'm like, Oslo, that's awesome. I just thought it was really cool, the weird synchronicities with the names.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of it. We got to make that list because we have like, it's kind of ridiculous. But moving on to the things that relate to everybody rather than weird things. So we were like so head over heels. I think after a couple of weeks, like when we decided to be exclusive, that's when I was talking about
it was literally like
checklist.
2 weeks. And on Mother's Day, he came over and asked me like, it was interesting. It was kind of an informal thing, but I told him like on Mother's Day, I had 2 other bouquets of flowers. And I was experiencing jealousy of his ex. He was experiencing jealousy of the other guys that were lingering. And he just was like, if we just focused on each other and didn't distract ourselves, something magical could really happen here. And I just felt my heart like sink, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I've never had a boyfriend. I was just married at 19 to my first boyfriend. Like, it was crazy for me to feel like I'm going to just commit to him. I knew that I wanted that. I knew so deeply, like, wow, after 2 weeks, he wants to be just exclusive with me. And it was a scary time because I knew his divorce wasn't finalized yet. I knew he had 4 kids and I had 3 kids. And there were so many little things that like could have made you just fear and put guards over your heart. Everyone has walls over their heart. And it's like, you just have to take a chance of faith. You just have to take the leap.
And we were just, we just get together and look at each other and just like giggle giddy. We were just saying, your mom.
My mom's like, you guys just giggle. Like we were literally like the most smitten, like laughing all the time. We just look at each other and just break out in the giggles. And it was a good feeling to be like, this amount of serotonin and this amount of like oxytocin when I'm like skin to skin with you is literally like everything I could crave. I was like, we are definitely exclusive. And it felt really good to just have that safety and security that I'd been craving. And literally, you guys, we could jump to like how quickly this happened because he was selling his house and he needed help moving out of it and everything. And then my contract with my apartment was up at the same month. Mm-hmm. And there were so many synchronicities of like, oh, we love to spend time together, but you live 40 minutes away. And I actually had a condo that I had purchased, put earnest cash down. It was being built in Saratoga Springs. I had all this equity from my old house. I was going to roll into this apartment and I just wanted to purchase something. But once I met him, I was like, oh, I don't want to live in Saratoga Springs. I don't want to deal with the traffic. I don't want to be out there alone. I want to be with this person. Like, So that was a really scary moment too, of feeling like, do we move in?
Yeah, I was looking and I found this house and I was just like, okay, this is a really good price and this is a really big house. We could just, and I was doing, at the time, I feel like houses were even more expensive, but I was looking, it's like, okay, I can get like a dingy apartment and you can get a dingy apartment, or we can just go in and get a house that's 3 times bigger. And so and it just felt good. We came and we looked at it and, okay, other crazy stories. So, Elisa is a hairdresser.
Oh, yeah. This is crazy.
And so she goes and she works with one of her besties.
Yes, it's just on Lehigh Main Street, just me and my girl, Kel. And Kelly is literally going through the same process. I don't even know how, but we met our men at the same time. We started dating at the same time. And me and my salon girl have so much in common that her guy that she's dating is going through a brutal divorce. They have so much going on with their divorce. I had so much going on with this divorce. Kelly actually had 11 kids combined with her man, and we have 7 kids combined with ours. And so everyone in the salon would come in like the 7-Eleven. She has 11 kids. I have 7 kids. And it was just such a crazy thing that our love stories were so in sync with each other.
And so Elisa says, hey, I'm looking at this house with my man. And she's like, are you kidding?
Yeah, I show her the pictures.
We're looking at that house. And so we talked to the landlord here, and at first he's like, well, we have another couple and they were there first, but if it falls through, I'll let you know.
And that's
it was her best friend
crazy.
Who was
the couple that was literally put an offer in on this house before was literally my best friend from the salon. And it was scary because like I didn't know if we'd get this house. We were just going to rent it, but I was like, okay, this is 7 bedrooms, like 4,000 square feet. It is such a better like way of living for my children that we have a backyard, and Aaron is like so sweet to provide a tramp and tons of things for them. I was like, dude, this is such a good deal. Like you said, financially, if we just, pay for this together, it's way cheaper than doing 2 separate houses.
Yeah. And then it's in a lease that's a year or 2. And so we'd have to be living 30 to 40 minutes apart for a year. It's like, you know what? And that's where there's kind of no rules.
Yes.
And I think we got to come up with the rules, but for me, everything is negotiable. It's kind of like
go for your heart. Like sometimes it can feel really scary to be like, oh, I'm moving in. And it was like, I'm moving in with a man and his teenage son and all of these other kids. And how am I going to be a mother of 7? And how are we going to work out our schedules? And like the amount of questions that we had was like so intense. But I was like, this feels good. Like if I'm going with my gut, motherly instinct, my greatest intuition, I'm on cloud 9. This is bliss for me. Like,
yeah, and it was, so we moved in, and I think that was when maybe some of the, let's see, it was all guided by heart, and now I'm trying to deal with the logic of this. I'm like, wait a second, I've got to commute my 4 kids, 22 minutes every morning for the next school year, there and back, and there's 4 of them. So if one of them's not ready, I've got to make multiple trips. And
okay, so once we moved in, it was kind of a rude awakening of like, woo, we have 7 kids for about 7 days, and then we'll have 7 days off where we could actually nurture this relationship, get to know each other, and date. But it is a really unique thing when you are blending families or have step, or if you've been divorced before, there's schedules that you can work out. And I am very grateful for both of our exes that we were able to sync our schedules and do 50-50 and have that time where we're able to be like, okay, 7 days of 7 kids, complete chaos, to now like, okay, now we can actually date and get to know each other.
It is nice too when you're married in the traditional way and you just have the kids all the time. I feel like it's the break makes me appreciate that time way more. And it's kind of also, we go through that, we get through the week and it's nice. Okay, we have a week off to where we just get to be together. We get to go out, we get to date. I do like the dynamic. It's a very good balanced thing. And if you're married and not divorced, I think people should do this, like get a nanny or something.
Yes, literally. Like that's
take
half
your
the
time.
battle when you're married with the person that you have kids with. You're lucky to get one Friday night a week. You're lucky to get one night to go out on a date And it's just hard because you have to pay for the babysitter and then you have to pay for the dinner, but it's so worth it. Pay for that rather than paying for divorce. Like, make time for each other.
Divorce is way more expensive. Let's just be honest. You're paying for 2 households.
Yeah, like, just make the time for each other. And that's what's really unique with this, that I'm like, wow, we do have 7 days together to just play and travel and do business. And it's just felt so nice to be able to strengthen this here rather than like, okay, we have 7 kids all the time. But it's been really beautiful to watch this family blend because his children, the ages are, go ahead, baby, tell about your
15, 13, 10, and 5.
Yeah, and mine are 7 and 4. And then my boy just turned 3 this last month. And so it's like to have 3 boys in the house that are 3, 4, and 5. It is crazy. Like,
and you have all your expectations about, this person's going to play with this person. And there is this thing too. And I had this where after I got divorced, I'm like, I'm not marrying anybody until I live with them for, I don't know, at least a year. Because you just don't, if you're just dating on weekends, I feel like you could probably BS for years.
Totally. Like, and I felt that with men where it's like they're putting their best foot forward and you're just going to see them once a week and you don't know them. I'm like, I need to know like what you're doing when you wake up and what you do before you go to bed. Like, I want to know this person so well before you move in and get that rude awakening. Like, it could be so difficult. So I was like really happy that literally after 2 months of knowing each other, we moved in. We did that. That's crazy. It's like, but like, also, why not? Like, take the leap of faith and see if it's going to work. And I had it like, it's a year contract. If we just hate each other after this year, and it's not working with our families, it's not working with our schedule.
Like, I'll live in the basement. The house is big enough. You guys can take upstairs.
Like, I'm just like, we can figure it out from there. But like, we do need to figure out our daily life and what it would be like and blending families and seeing just if we can coexist together. And we've been pleasantly surprised. I've felt very grateful that like his teenagers are so helpful. They do a ton of cleaning. They help with my kids. Like, they are just kind and loving. And I'm so grateful that like all of them are extremely receptive to me and kind to me. They respect me and I respect them. And we have really beautiful conversations. And I'm just like, wow, I'm like able to be here with these teenagers. It's like crazy the age difference, but how fun it is to help me to cherish my kids and know that it goes so fast. And like soon enough, my kids will be, teenagers too. So it's been really cool to see the dynamic that it's just a lot of helping hands. And it's been a really good experience for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting if you've got a lot of little kids, there's a tipping point where it gets easier when your oldest kid can hang with the kids while you just go get dinner or lunch or something. And you don't have that. But since my kids are older, it's actually, when they're all together, it is nice that we can put the little ones down and it's like, okay, hey, we're just going to go down the street and get a little food. And when you're in the thick of it, you've got all little kids. It can be torturous if you don't have help.
It really can be. I know.
So let's see. We talked about, everybody's got to come up with their own rules. Like for me, I was just like, I don't even know what I think about marriage. I have to figure that out. But I did know, like, I'm not marrying somebody until we live together. But you have other friends who've gone other ways, and other people have different rules, and it's like
my girlfriend Kelly from the salon got married in January, and that was like crazy because his divorce actually only finalized in November. So it was hard that I moved in with him in June, and we had to go through his divorce. We had to go through the lawyers and get all of this figured out with the schedule and the financing and just be like, okay, now in November, the closure of that, and now we can finally start to focus. But like November was the holidays. Yeah, we had all of the Christmas, and it was just so hard to go through like October and November with all of the holidays being like, yes, finally he's divorced, but now like, what does this mean for us? And it's felt really good to not rush marriage. Like, we've moved in and I'm the girlfriend with all the wifely duties. It's not like that. It's just felt very like, we don't need the government involved. We don't need a paper to say this. Like, And other people do, but it's okay to do it a unique way and just try this. And it has felt like, oh, we love each other. We're not going to rush into something out of fear. Like, I have to get a ring on my finger or else he'll leave me, or else it's like, no, it's fine. You don't need to be a fiance or proposed to. It's very strictly on your own timing, because that's kind of the world standard too, of like, you have to prove your love when we already know our love. We're secure in our love. Like,
yeah, you get to make up your own rules, and that's what I really like. And I'm kind of a rule breaker anyway. But,
I know. It's been fun though to be able to like see our path and trust it and be like, wow, we just did a year together, and how quickly.
It was fast.
Yeah, like it was so fast. Like going through his divorce, blending our family, moving in. It was like, woo, like a lot at once. But I feel really grateful that we stuck with it, even through the hard times. We were just like, you know what, this is difficult. It's a big learning curve, but like we've had radical compassion on each other, glorious communication. I felt extremely grateful that he is just like a very humble man and a very like moldable man. He has like so much flexibility with me. That's a really beautiful trait. And so it's just been unique to find someone that's like, oh wow, we can just talk about anything and I'm safe to vocalize anything. This is my best vessel to be able to express my innermost emotions. And really the hardest part about doing this is the self-sabotage. It's nothing that he does or says. It's really something deep inside of me that's like, am I worthy of this? Do I deserve this? Is love, it's like, is it here? Like, it's just your own inner negative beliefs being like, trying to self-sabotage, trying to protect you from harm. And you've been married once and it didn't go well. Like you could put up all the guards around your heart of like, no, thank you. I don't want to do this again. This is seriously terrifying. But you just surrender to it. You just surrender to the love and be like, God will take care of the rest.
And it's been helpful understanding each other's personalities, because we're big into personality tests and the Enneagram. If you've ever heard about it, it's the 9 different personalities. And Elise has been big into it for a decade.
Years.
I
love it.
Heard about it, but she got me into it. But it's really nice. It helps me understand your core drives. So tell them a little bit about you.
Yeah, the Enneagram is a unique, very, very unique kind of personality test. And I am the number 2 on there, which is like, so there's 1 to 9 numbers, and then every number has a wing, and then every number also has like an instinct, and it goes really nitty gritty to like the details, which is really helpful because it tells you who you are as your personality when you're healthy and when you're average and when you're like unhealthy for your personality. So it's really a beautiful tool. And I am a 2, like I said, that's a helper. And then I have this like kind of a 3 wing, I'd say more so than my 1 wing is, my 3 wing is the achiever. And so being this helper, I get very much into this like serviceful, helping, people pleasing, like I just love so deeply, and I get really intense, and they tell you your greatest desire with the Enneagram and your greatest fear. And these are literally like reading a biography on yourself. Seriously, it is so detailed. But my biggest fear is that I'm unworthy of love. It's like always been there for me. And it's really cool to like feel this love and be like, oh, I'm worthy of this. I'm receiving this. I'm feeling gratitude for the love that, I get. Because in my life, I have struggled with that fear. And it's cool because, my 2 personality is just this people-pleasing, loving helper.
Yeah, and that's the strategy of a 2 is going somewhere and anticipating needs and desires. So 2s need to feel needed. That's kind of their core drive. All right, so I'm a 4, which is an individualist. And
I love it.
And so we're not going to get into the complete Enneagram. There's books and books on this, but just to give you an idea, and we'll do a podcast later that gets into more of the detail. Yeah. But and then I have a 3 wing, which is the achiever. So we connect on the achiever.
Yes.
Then 4s can also have a 5 wing, which is the thinker, and that's
the investigator.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit resigned. I just need to disappear and listen to podcasts and read books. And so it's helpful for her to know that because she's very social. And I'm like, look, I need some space. I'm just going to go. Sometimes I just need to go to the basement and like kill people on video games, or it's nothing personal. It's not, and there's nothing you can do to help me. I know you want to help.
Seriously. But honestly, I loved that about him because I am so social. I have all my salon friends and all my girlfriends that I love to go out with. And there's a lot of relationships that I try to balance and to make it so I can be with everyone. And then I'm with a partner that's not so much emotional needs on me, like so much that I need to be there. It's like, oh, he gets to do his own thing. It's great.
Yeah. And 4's core drive is to feel significant or special.
Yeah,
and
that's their biggest fear or their greatest desire.
The fear would be that we're insignificant, that we don't matter. And so it was nice with her 2ness or helper. Elisa's very good with compliments and just giving love and praise. And my ego loves that. And
just stroke his ego. I love it. I'm like, some guys would get squirmish or uncomfortable with like that much praise. And it's not like I'm trying to flatter him or get something out of him. It's just really like, I am words of affirmation. I am just walking words of affirmation. Everyone in my life, they get that from me. And that's like, I love them.
And that was helpful too, because I really got like, this is not a strategy or a tactic or flattery. This is just who Elisa is.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. We'll go somewhere and she's always giving people compliments. We go to the gas station. Everybody gets a compliment. Oh, I love your hair. Oh my gosh, those nails are amazing.
I am
those
like
shoes
that.
are so cute. I love it. And it's interesting because sometimes when she's laying on the compliments, I do get squeamish. Like if we're producing music and I'm feeling like, okay, but it's been a good time for me to reflect about, this has to do with me. What is it I believe about myself that I don't think I'm worthy of this praise? And so I'm like, look, just keep doing your thing and I'll get used to it.
You'll graciously accept it. I'm like, you don't always understand why you're feeling uncomfortable or why when someone's complimenting you, sometimes it can be like, woo, like confrontational, but it is a good self-awareness to be like, oh yeah, he can slowly learn to accept the compliments because they're very sincere and very true. And one thing you need to know about 4s is because they're the individualist, they are individual. Like sometimes it can be hard to work as a team. Sometimes it can be hard. He wants to take on the tasks. He wants to do stuff. He's very practical in himself and he knows he can rely on himself.
And it's really hard for me to depend on other people.
I'm the helper. I'm like, what can I help with? And I feel so much satisfaction in getting a chore done, getting an errand done, doing something for someone. And it's been cool to learn to work as a team together because as a 4, he is divinely himself. He does not care about the people pleasing. He does not care about that.
Yeah, one of my superpowers is ignoring people's needs. And your superpower is
to know their needs,
especially their emotional needs. And I feel you're very much emotional needs. And so that's been interesting with so many needs in the house. And I know it, for a while it was overwhelming for you. And
it is.
Do you want to talk about the one day when
yes,
we weren't going to break up, but you were going to move out, right?
Yeah, like I did come to this point of like when I was living alone, I could get my week off where I could just that whole like time just give myself what I needed. Go get my nails done, go get my hair done, go get my coffee, go get a hot bath or paint if I wanted. And I was doing a lot of self-love work, a lot of mirror work, a lot of dancing at home, ecstatic dance to help, and just little things that like light my spirit for myself. And once you move in with someone, you know, if you're married or have kids, like women can be run so thin and it's hard to prioritize yourself. And especially with me, I have like 0 boundaries. 2s have a really difficult time setting boundaries and keeping them and saying no because of their people pleasing. But I wanted to move out. I just got to a point of like, okay, this is really hard for me. There's like 7 kids and emotionally I feel their energy of like, how much everyone needs me and making sure that my kids are getting enough from their own mother. So I definitely did want to move out for a second.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's since she's a helper, she's filling people's needs. It was also hard too when we have like all these little kids and sometimes they're annoying the older kids and you feel like everything's your responsibility. So it's like feel like you're having to punish your kids more than you'd have to if they just lived alone and there wasn't other people to bug or other rooms to get into. And so that, I know that was really stressful. It's easy. It's like, yeah, and you mentioned it was more, it's like when your kids are throwing a tantrum and you're alone in your house, who cares? Cry it off. But if you're in a restaurant, you feel the need to do something about it. And I feel like having my kids and having me, you're worried, you had a lot of worry that your kids were annoying us. And that was just hard. Another layer of psychological, and so you're just like, maybe it's better that I just have my own place.
It was true. Like if anyone's had a kid tantrum in a store, you're like, they're disturbing the peace, and you have to get them, like, evacuate the store, evacuate the restaurant. You need to get them out so you're not disturbing everybody. And that's how I felt. Like, I don't know these kids well enough. I don't know how they're going to be responding emotionally. But my 2-year-old's having a tantrum on the floor. Like, I don't want to have to always, like, take him or, like, don't go in their room, don't touch them, don't touch their stuff, don't, and I'm like running a mile a minute just trying to be like, stop it. And so it was really difficult for me to be like, I wasn't used to punishing my kids. They weren't used to this many guidelines and rules. It was just me and them. But now it's like, oh, there is other people to respect and to respect their space and to respect their things. And it's like, this is really difficult. But I am really grateful that, like, Aaron handled it so well when I wanted to move out.
Yeah,
he was basically, just listening.
Yeah, you were telling me that, and I'm pretty kind of as an individualist. I'm like, well, you can make your own choices, and you thought I was going to like respond different. I was just like, okay. So it was like, this the end of our relationship, and you're like, well, no, I still want to date. I just feel like we need our own space, and I'm like, well, let's have a day or two to think about this, and if that's what you feel.
Oh, he was so respectful to me. And it was hard for me because I'm like, I do want to still date you, and that's a good route too. But I found that it was about taking care of myself and my needs. And then I had this huge, like, epiphany of just like, wow, I can learn to have my voice and vocalize, no, I can't do this right now. No, I can't drive your kids. No, I can't do that with my daughter. No, I can't jump on the tramp with you. No, I can't make you something right now. Like, go get your own snack. And just being able to learn, like, those boundaries again of like, oh, this is okay to say no sometimes, and learning the power of, like, just not running myself too thin and being like, I can do this in this household, in this, like, this atmosphere, because in the apartment, there's no growth there. That's too easy. That's too comfortable. But when I'm in a family atmosphere with a partner, that's where you have to learn those skills. And it's harder, and you have to be more patient with yourself. But it is like, when you live alone, of course you can have a hot bath. What's hard is letting your partner know, no, I can't watch our favorite TV show tonight because I need some alone time to take a hot bath. Like,
yeah, it was interesting that night because I had my guys' night, and everybody seemed to be having relationship issues at the time. It was very, very interesting. But yeah, I was kind of like, nah, this means we're breaking up. I mean, people don't live together and then move out. Aww. But then that was like my rigid kind of moralistic side. But then I'm like, you know what? There's really no rules to this. And we moved in really quickly, and if we want to keep dating and live separately, like, there's no rules. We can do that.
Yeah.
And but we worked it out, and I had a talk with my kids too, and I just said, like, look, Elisa has 3 kids. 2 of them are very small, and little kids get into stuff and are annoying.
Yes, they are.
But like, Elisa adds so much value to my kids, listening to them and just fulfilling their emotional needs, that, like, I think for them, if I gave them the choice, I was like, okay, well, Lisa's going to leave with her kids. They'd be like, no.
I know.
So I had a good talk with them, and that was, lasted about a day, that little
Literally
scenario.
Just a day. And it's good to be able to, if you ever do have anything you want to express to your partner, like, vocalize it. And that's been my biggest thing of, like, not keeping things bottled up and then just, like, flying away. There's another really good personality test that goes over how you're being triggered and what you respond under fear, under tension or fear, or when you're feeling triggered. There is like 4 different types of responding, which is you can flight or fight or fawn or freeze. And those are really, really interesting because I took this quiz to figure out what I was, because I've noticed that about myself, that I'm kind of flighty. I'm like, this is hard. I'm leaving. Like, I have a really hard time when I sit in that discomfort. I do think, like, maybe a vacation will make me happier. Maybe just leaving the house or moving out. And it's really been helpful to know, like, I'm a fawner. Fawning and flying, those are the ways I'm going to respond to being triggered. And his are a little different.
I will fight sometimes, freeze or flight. I do not fawn. I don't think
And to explain what fawning is, it's like picture the donkey in Shrek when there's like this dragon, this fire-breathing dragon that's got you and is going to eat you. And the donkey's like, ooh, what beautiful, bright, white teeth you have. Like, he's going to compliment, and they kind of use flattery or psychology to weasel their way out of really difficult situations.
And I noticed that too, and that was interesting. That was weird for me because my ex wouldn't fawn, but I noticed, like, we'd get in these arguments and, like, you're really, like, nice and accommodating, and I'm like, what's going on here?
And it's because I'm triggered. Like, I am triggered in our arguments, and he's a fighter, and I'm like, whoa, this man
I will argue my point
fighting.
of view. Yeah.
He is defensive. He is, and just learning that that's his way of, like, fighting for our love, fighting for this conversation, fighting. And there's anger, but it's not always anger towards me. There's anger towards himself that he disappointed me. And it's okay to feel like everyone responds to fear differently. Everyone's going to respond to things different, and there's no right or way. That I'm a fawner and he's a fighter. It's all right to know that about each other, so that when we are feeling afraid, when we are feeling triggered, just knowing our own triggers are our own responsibility. That's our responsibility to address what part of me is unhealed, what part of me or my inner child or my past beliefs are making me squirmish to this. And that is like news for ourselves. It's not always like, you triggered me. It's like, no, I'm feeling triggered, and this is something within me with my ex or with my past daddy issues, whatever it is. And you're able to look inside of yourself like, I don't need to fly away. I don't need to fawn him and weasel my way out of this situation. I just need to be vulnerable and real and honest. And that's been really helpful to know that I've got a freeze man and a fight man.
And a flight. I get very avoidant too.
Yes.
And the point is, when you get that self-awareness, is it gives you an option to make another choice. And if sometimes flight is working, but sometimes if you're in a relationship and you both flight, you just avoid things and avoid and avoid. And that's when it's like, okay, I need to train this other response of not just running away and avoiding problems. And so I do think in relationships, I'm glad. I think we've both done quite a bit of work on the personal development, and just bringing that self-awareness. And that's the interesting thing when you get divorced. I think a lot of people have a lot of delusions about the other person. And what was nice about dating new people is you get feedback. And sometimes the feedback is the same as your ex's feedback. And you're like, okay. And here's an interesting thing. If you're going through divorce or you're having relationship problems, you can look at it as these three options. Either there's something, wrong with them, or they need to change, like their fault, or it's my fault. Or it's both our faults. And there is a trap, though, in this, because I'm very growth-oriented. You're growth-oriented. And I always felt like I can just grow. We just need more personal growth, more personal growth. And sometimes you're in a relationship where there's a fourth option. It's like, this is just not a good match, energetically, value-wise, and you're not going to grow your way out of it. It's just way too hard. Like, I don't want my core path of growth in life learning patience with my partner. Like, I want to build and create with my partner. I don't always want to be peeved and butting heads with my partner. Like, sure, you learn patience and you might learn some good
and like the energetic value sometimes, like talking about what our past relationships were and being like, wow, I was really like biting tooth and nail to like work it out with my ex, and it was just like forced and it wasn't natural and there was too much resentment and pain. So it's just kind of like, oh, this is nice that we have this fresh new energy that's like, if there's any resentment that comes up for us, we address it right on the spot. We're able to vocalize it. And that's hard for two air signs because things just blow over and blow over and blow over until we're like a raging tornado of air of just like, So it's good to be able to talk about it and not let things sweep under the rug, not let things blow over all the time. We're here to like really have good communication with each other and address it when it comes up.
Yeah, and it's interesting when dating too. And I remember with the first relationship I was in, like I was there and I just wanted to have a relationship and have feedback, because I was in one relationship with the same person, and you start getting these messages. I'm like, I don't think I'm this bad. I think I'm actually pretty good, but maybe I'm delusional. And it was interesting going out and dating. And it was funny because she wasn't comfortable that I wasn't divorced yet. And it was interesting. I felt gypped because it was just kind of like this. We didn't have a closure conversation. And like, all I wanted from that relationship is like, okay, wait, how am I doing? Like, what was your experience of me?
Because I just need Aquarius he dated.
Yeah.
And I'm like that too. When I date guys, it's like, tell me anything I can work on, anything that makes you like, I really do. I love the feedback. Like, love me enough to be honest with me, please. And life is hard enough as it is. Like, life will throw the most unruly, horrifying, horrific events at you. You don't know when your sister's gonna die. You don't know when you're gonna have a miscarriage. You don't know these things, of these horrific like events of trials, but you do know who you're gonna go through them with.
Yeah,
you want to go through life's hard difficulties with someone that feels safe. You don't want your relationship to be another added difficulty in your life. It's like, you get to choose your relationships in this life. You don't get to choose your trials.
Yeah, and that's been nice too, is in the comparison of just how much fun and lightheartedness and playfulness we have. And it's like, there's, it's hard with, especially getting married so young, and this is part of Mormon culture, but I just feel like all these things build up because you're so young and have so little self-awareness that you don't even know how to resolve things. Yeah. And when my marriage was coming to an end, things would come up and I'm like, that was 15 years ago. Like, but apparently it wasn't resolved and they just build up. And it is nice being like, I don't really have to understand everything that went wrong with my past marriage, and I don't have to fix anything. I've reflected a lot, and I think it's good to reflect, like, okay, and I can totally see, and you'll hear this all the time, everybody apparently is married to a narcissistic ex. They were just a narcissist. I hear that all the time.
I hear that. Like, I roll my eyes when men say that.
It's like, what did you learn from, what part did you play? And I think that was good. When we talked about that too, where it's like, people who just blame their ex for everything. It's kind of the accountability.
Like, I love a man with accountability, where it's like, if every man's like, oh, she was crazy, she was a narcissist, she cheated, she did this, it's just kind of like, you're a victim. Thank you for your victim story. I'm grateful that we can connect on that. But the opposite of being a victim is to be a creator. And now what? Now, yes, you're a victim of her. It's like, what are you going to create? What now did you learn, and what can you have accountability about? Times that you ignored yourself, ignored your heart, ignored your self-trust. Go to that and see, what did you do? What were your little things that you neglected your partner, that you harmed your partner, that you weren't sensitive with your partner, that you didn't have the coping skills or the emotional intelligence to work it out with your partner? Because when you get a new partner, you need that.
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a really good coach, just life coach, whatever you want to call him, who I worked with. And as things were going south, and probably 2020 and maybe 2021, and we're talking about divorce, he said to me, he's like, look, do the work together as a couple. And I really think it's important before people get divorced that they do therapy or something together, because you're going to be linked to this person for the rest of your life if you've had kids. I think if you don't have kids, it's way easier, but I have 4 kids with my ex. And so regardless, it's going to be better to work through stuff now, because you're going to have to do it no matter what. And sometimes you go and you work through it and you decide you can stay married, and that's great. But I just think that was really solid advice. He's just like, do it now before you get divorced. Let's do it. And he helped us a lot through coaching, did multiple therapists and things. And that helped me feel like, okay, I felt really obligated to like do all that I could, because it's 16 years and 4 kids and we have all this stuff together. And I do think that's a good thing of advice. Like, if there's obvious things you haven't done to repair your marriage, well, do those. Do some therapy.
And there's things, even with my ex, that I'll call up and be like, oh, I'm sorry. This came to me that I did this, and I'm sorry. Like, it's okay even now to call my ex and let him know, like, we were just really young and confused, and I'm sorry for anything I've ever done to harm you or hurt you, and just get that off your chest. Like, I'm grateful both of us had a smoother divorce. Neither of us had to go to court for our divorce. We both were able to do mediation and work things out. And to already have that, you're on top of the divorce game. You don't have as many legal bills and stuff. And it's good because you have these kids that you have to interact with them anyways. And it's very important that you do not slander their name and that you make sure that there's respect there and things like that.
Yeah, and it's easier said than done, and some things just take time. But I do think this narrative that divorced people need to be angry at each other and at each other's throats, that just hurts the kids. And the more you can be peaceful and have good conversations, I think the better. And I know people who are divorced and they'll go on trips, like the couples have remarried or they have their boyfriend and girlfriend and they go on family trips together because they're that at peace and that comfortable. And it's really, there's a tendency, I think, coming out of divorce, we want to make the other person wrong. And this isn't to say people don't do dumb stuff we don't want to repeat. Like, people do dumb stuff. I've done dumb stuff. My spouse has done stupid things, and we need to learn from those mistakes, but keeping in mind, okay, we're all kind of like kids in this world, and I have this belief that people are doing the best they can at the time, given their upbringing, their knowledge, the skills, their training. People are doing the best that they can with the resources at the time. And I think just having compassion for exes and also having compassion for yourself. Like, yeah, it's okay to be angry and to be sad and to be pissed off and give things time. Like, you don't have to feel guilty for that, but like, we don't need to go the extra step to demonizing. And it's hard because we do want to point a finger and we do want somebody to feel guilty. And it can be helpful, I felt like, for me, like, to kind of make her the bad guy in my own mind, because it was really hard for me to choose to get divorced. And that was like, for a time, like, when she did this, like, okay, I'm in the right here. I can get divorced without any guilt or shame. But just be understanding of people.
Yeah, I remember when we first started talking on the phone and he was going through his divorce process, like, I just remember how relatable it was and how, like, brutal it is, and just being like, everyone kind of has their narratives in their own inner world, and there is a lot of confusion about he said, she said, and he did and she did, and it just goes back and forth, and it's like, it's difficult, you know? And so I know with me, I could say a lot of really difficult things about my ex and what we did and how hard it was for those 8 years, but it is kind of just like, for me, the closure that I have, that I'm now divorced after 8 years, that I had that self-trust. Like, that's another hard thing, is like trusting yourself. If you do feel like this isn't your relationship and you put in all the blood, sweat, and tears and all of the work. Me and my ex did a lot of counseling together and a lot of work together. And there was the back and the forth. And it felt really good to trust myself and take action on what I felt inside my soul, so that I could out with the old and in with the new, that I could then receive energetically. Like, this is a partnership that is so much healthier for me, that is so much better for me.
And then you're also freeing them to find their soulmate or somebody who just works better. And it's interesting because everybody has different personalities, and I feel like you're very heart-centered, and you'll have these intuitions and you just know, and you take action. And for me, it was interesting being a little bit more head-centered. So, like, how do I know that I did everything I could? And the truth is, I don't. There's always more you could do. You're never going to know that you did everything. And it's, how do I know that it couldn't have worked out? And that's the hard thing, I think, sometimes with divorce, is you just don't know with life. Like, you make choices, you live with the consequences, and hopefully learn something. And that's been something for me. It's like just letting go of that head game. It's like, I did what I did. I didn't do what I didn't do. I gave things a value and effort. And also just questioning this narrative we have that the purpose of marriage is to stay together for your whole life. That's just a belief we have. And that creates just as much joy as it does suffering. Like, sometimes the universe is calling you to a different path. And there's people who, they get divorced and they go on their path and then they get back together. or there's people who don't. And it's just like, there's no, and this is kind of like my belief is there's no right way to do things, really. We can learn from other people's experience, but at the end of the day, it's like there is this kind of following your heart and just taking a leap and being like, this is life, and I'm just going to take a leap and deal with whatever happens on the other side.
And you will be very satisfied when you leap for a leap of faith. Like, you'll be satisfied to know you're just landing on goose feathers. Like, usually when you take an action towards a happier or healthy you're safe. It's okay. And I remember like trying to decide if I should divorce or not, and praying, like just like falling on my knees, like just surrendering, like, please, what do I do? And Josh this and Josh that. And Josh, how do I change Josh? How do I help him? How do I get him involved with me? How do I get this like fixed or healed or just to freaking work again? And it was so scary to just pray and feel like I want a divorce, and it was all about Josh and him. And God just like literally answered my prayer so beautifully, where I literally felt like I heard him say to me, like, this is who you are. And he showed me like beaming colors from my crown chakra. I just saw like tons of gorgeous, beautiful, flowing colors up here. He's like, this is who you are. And if Josh doesn't know who you are, you've done a great service to him. And I don't know why or how that voice came to me. It was so powerful. And I felt just in that moment of like, this is who I am. Oh my God. I'm like this divine, powerful, glorious goddess. And this man doesn't know that. That's a painful feeling. And I then was gathering a bunch of evidence. I wanted to be right about the divorce. I wanted to find ways he was wrong. I was just like going a mile a minute of how unhappy I was to gather evidence, because I'd already made the choice that I want freedom. I want out of this. And it was beautiful to then just see the little things that I nitpicked and how difficult things were to help me to then follow through with that choice. And it was good. And Josh is happy that I did, because we're so much happier now apart.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking we could talk about getting divorced and a little bit of the hoe phase. I think people.
Yes, that's hilarious.
So this is interesting because this ties into getting married early, Mormonism for us, and just philosophy of life. So this is what have observed, and I think there is a natural progression to life that I feel like in Mormonism it stifles it, and people end up not being present in what they're doing. So give you an example. A lot of women really want a career. And I know a lot of women who haven't had the career because they're doing the right Mormon thing, which is supporting their husband while he has a career and taking care of kids, having lots of babies really early. Yeah. And what's interesting is I've noticed that if they've had this desire to have a career and they don't, they're raising kids, but there's always this not wanting to be there, this tension. And it's really hard. Where I've noticed other people where they've wanted to have a career and they do. And let's say for 7 years, they're working, and finally she decides, okay, I want to have kids. And they just seem a lot more present. And it's like, I think there is a path in life where if you follow your desires, you go until you get satiated, until you're full. And then like if you want to travel, go travel, and usually you'll come to a place where you do something enough and you're like, okay, now I want to settle down. So with Mormonism, there's a lot of stuff in the ex-Mormon, when you leave Mormonism, around, substances, drugs, alcohol, around sex and things that I think, and I think it's healthy that there's this pendulum swing. Like you're over on this side, this kind of purity culture, and you're doing the right and you're all good, but there's all these suppressed experiences that your soul has wanted to have. And then a lot of times people are like, woo, maybe I'm atheist. Yeah, there is no God or whatever. And I swung more towards, I left Mormonism, went kind of spiritualistic, then swung atheistic, agnostic, and now I'm back a little bit more spiritualistic. But there's this, and when people get divorced, especially when they haven't had any other sexual experiences because they got married young or were in a religion, often they talk about there's this hoe phase. So I think it'd be fun to talk about it a little bit.
I know it is a really unique thing, feeling like we were both married virgins and we were both able to like get married in the temple and it's just kind of like this curiosity and this pain of like, there was an energetic process that I feel like I missed. I didn't get to energetically feel my sensual power or do what I wanted to or try what I wanted to or feel like there was a partner that you had like wild, mad chemistry with. Like, I just never had that. And that was a really difficult thing in my marriage, feeling like, what is all this like love stories in the movies and what are all these songs singing about where they just have this like radical intimacy that's so passionate. And that's what I really felt was difficult, is like I'm seeking this passion with a partner. And when I actually withdrew my paperwork, I told Josh, I was like, I'm actually really wanting to date. Once we talked about the divorce, it was mutual at the time.
Sorry, what do you mean paperwork?
It was the divorce paperwork, and we withdrew it and we filled it out. And I told him, I want a dating app. I want to get on and meet people. And he was like, if it's a Christian dating app, because Josh loved to tell me what to do. So he's like, if it's a Christian dating app, you can date. And I was like, okay. So I got on like Upward or something. And it was really amazing to feel like sexy, like to get these matches of like feedback that I'm attractive. Like, I did not think I was that attractive. I did not get that much flattery or attention from men. And I had just had my baby 7 months earlier. Literally, Josh and I were going through a divorce with like a tiny like 7-month-old baby. And I was still trying to lose a baby weight, really overweight, really just like not feeling cute. But it was really, really good and satisfying to be like, ooh, am I hot? Yay, I'm getting matches.
Yeah, I think it can be helpful. And I think some therapists will suggest this, but again, especially in this good boy Mormon context where you only know one person and you haven't had a lot of experiences, sometimes you just need contrast. And that was interesting for me dating. And I was really afraid of dating in the beginning until we were divorced, or I don't know. I always felt like just this weird something about it. But as soon as I saw that she hired a divorce lawyer, I'm like, okay, you know what? And I believe she had been dating, and I was like, why? Divorce can take years. I don't know. We've got stuff to separate. And I talked with her, and we both decided that we were going to date. And it was really, I loved the contrasting experience of like going and just being with a different soul and feeling a different energy and just a different chemistry. And it was like, I got pretty good feedback dating too, which was interesting because I was in this gaslighting mind craziness where I did not know, like, am I really a bad person? Am I terrible with women? I didn't even know what it was.
Such a good man too. And it breaks my heart because it is true that like, you're just getting feedback from that same person for so long that then to be out dating, especially as a woman, they say for women on the dating apps, it's like a feast. And for men, it's a famine. There's not as many matches for men. It can be a lot more difficult. And I know, speaking of the Mormon like pendulum of like leaving Mormonism, I'd actually had my faith transition like maybe a year earlier around my divorce. And it was just hard to feel like I'd not experienced this life. I've not tried a sip of any alcohol or a puff of any drugs. I never did that in high school. I never did any of that. And I was a virgin when I got married. And I was just kind of like, oh, I missed out on all of this.
And it's interesting that the disconnect between you and your ex, because you were questioning Mormonism and that, and he's very...
Yeah, that was the start of our divorce. Like, that's why it's very mutual. It's just like, he's told me, like, I'd rather have you have like a sexual affair than to leave Mormonism, because that's a betrayal on God. That's a betrayal on our temple covenants. Like, it was a very difficult thing. He is a devout Mormon, and I love that for him. But it was really hard that when we were separating, I had 3 years of just like questioning the church at a rapid rate and feeling unsafe to let him know, feeling unsafe to ever question or doubt or let him know my inner world and the pain and anguish that it was to question my childhood beliefs. And it was really hard because even like when I was starting to date, it was like, I'm on this Christian dating app and I want to be wholesome and I want to be holy. And I was still kind of nervous about like the law of chastity because I literally took my garments off like that month. I was very new out of it.
For those of you who don't know who aren't Mormon, in Mormonism, you wear sacred underwear, basically.
White underwear, very holy. And like my ex would like make sure I'm always wearing my garments because it is supposed to protect you from those lustful thoughts, to protect you from the world and to keep you, you know, sacred and pure. But anyway, so it was a unique experience to be dating and just feel like I want to be in control of my sexual experiences. I want to have them and I'm okay to surrender to the lust for a minute. Like, I'm okay. And it felt really good to just surrender of like, this does not make me lessen. This does not make me unworthy. This does not make me a slut or sleazy. It's just literally being able to experience different chemistry. It's able to see different frequencies and be like, wow, that passion was there. And is it because we have an emotional connection? Is it because we have a spiritual connection? Like, what's connecting our bodies? And it was really fascinating to me to just feel like this is like I'm swinging to the other side and I don't give a flying F about it. I'm not feeling too much shame. I'm feeling a lot of self-love. I'm feeling in my power and it didn't bother me.
Yeah, that's interesting because I remember the first time I decided to sleep with somebody, like it was actually really powerful. And I was totally like, I'm totally choosing this.
Mm-hmm. This is consensual.
Yeah, I'm choosing this. And every time that I have, it's like, this is consensual. I'm choosing this experience. And it's actually, with life, I really think life is just about experience and variety. And it was just like, it was great. Like every experience I had, I really appreciated. Learned a lot, even some of the more awkward ones. It was, but it is interesting. So going to this idea of getting satiated too, where, and I've got a group of guy friends who are all, you know, divorced and have been through this, and everybody's got their thing. Like I know people that've slept with hundreds of people. And sometimes they were going through like really hard trauma and it was a way to kind of, you know, zone
Mm-hmm.
out. Other people, it's like, and I think what you find is, just like sleeping around. It's not really all it's cracked up to be. It's like not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of like there is something about a special connection. And when you find one person to go, like finding
like I could do it for like a month. I'm like sleeping with hundreds of people. It's like I literally had like a month of this of just being like, this is like not that great. Like, yeah, you want to explore, but then it's like once you've explored what you think you have or whatever, it's like, and I'm stepping back from this. I'm feeling my worth. I'm feeling, you know, and just reminding yourself like your worth isn't less than. It doesn't make you less, but it did feel really good to just be like, wow, I did that for a month and that was a wild time. And now it's out of my system. Like, thank you for like getting those emotions up, out and away and not always using it to fill the void or always using it to feel loved or always using it. It's just like, no, you can put a healthy boundary of like, I'm going to try this whole phase for a month and see what happens. And what happened was I wasn't getting satisfaction. I wasn't getting passion. I wanted like a real intimate experience.
Yeah. And I think it's really important. Like now, you know, by your own knowledge, not just by believing what people say. And there's people with different personalities. Like I know people and they have no intention of being monogamous and they sleep with a lot of people and they're loving their life right now. And sometimes it's a phase, sometimes it's not, but when you get out of the rules and all the guilt and shame, it's like, this is life. Mm-hmm. Sex is one of the most pleasurable parts of life. Let's do a lot of it.
It's so fun. And that's what's interesting about like that pendulum, because I felt like in Utah, the dating culture can be really different. It's usually people who are like left Mormonism, but everyone has this pent up sexual energy that they like never processed or like were able to experience as teenagers or something. I don't know what it is, but it just felt like I was always feeling like, okay, if you're going to buy me this dinner, I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you, like, it's like after that month of like trying, exploring, it was good to just put down boundaries of like, I'm not a people pleaser. No is my new best friend. I can learn the word no. I can embrace the word no, and it makes me a better person. No isn't just a word. It's like a necessity boundary sometimes when it comes to dating. And it's okay to swing to the other side, because I was there for a minute to be all seductive, and then I was like, woo, okay. Now I'm over here where it's like, I'm gonna make you work. Like, I don't make love. I don't do anything sexual for like 8 dates. Okay. Like, you gotta take me on like 7 or 8 dates first. And I had a lot of rules and guidelines after learning my own personal experiences. And I think that's good for people to put down guidelines sometimes for themselves. But then also on the heart end and the instinct end, being ready for a magical person to come into your life and be like, am I saying no to a really beautiful and magical experience? Like he said, he was like, when he asked me to be his girlfriend, he was like, we could be this could be something magical if we just didn't distract ourselves. And dating is a very distracting thing. It is just like messaging all the time and on the dating apps, and like your brain is so scattered with so many different people.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. There is an asymmetry between men and women, where generally if you're a woman, especially moderately at least attractive, you're going to get on those dating apps and you will have thousands of guys pursuing you. As a dude, might match with a couple, and it's like there's a lot of work, and there's still that expectation, like you're going to take him out to dinner and spend money. And it's, dating it's fun. But it can be a lot of work for guys.
Until it's not.
Yeah, it's fun until it's not. And if you're, a guy, I don't know, unless you're like, I'm not fabulously attractive and like 6'5" and stuff. So I know some guys, they just, they get flocked to, but it's work.
It's work.
But it is good and it is one of those things too. You'll have your expectations. I'm going to date X amount of people. And like when you find someone where there's just magic, I feel like you just kind of know. And I feel like you're going to attract people. This is where like the personal development is important. I find I attract people who are at a similar level of consciousness, a similar wavelength. And there's this interesting thing, because some people they're like, well, I'm not going to date for a long time until they're going to do all this personal work. And I think that's great. On the other hand, like you grow a lot being with somebody too and dating. So it's like, I have no doubt just kind of hanging out and being a bachelor, I could be very content, but it's just different doing it with another person. And I do prefer the relationship path. I think it's just more magical. And it is a lot of focus, like to know you've got your person and now we can focus on business and building something. Because I remember like you're going it's like I've been on Tinder for 2 hours and I realized too, most of these people don't actually use the app anymore. Yeah. And here's the thing of advice, just use the latest app, because those are all new people. But the old app, it's like there's just profile after profile and nobody's actually there. You're just wasting a ton of time.
And I know like meeting him through his divorce, it was like scary for me to feel like, wow, that could be really hard. I don't know the risk of like, have you explored? Have you been able to date enough? Have you met enough people that you know what you want? You've gotten to know tons of personalities and you're able to like really dictate if you want to go into something exclusively, like right through your divorce. Because I had a little bit longer time to date than him. And I was just nervous, like, we're just going to commit to each other and hopefully he's not curious and hopefully he's gone through that energetic process that like he's okay to be just with one person, Yeah,
and everybody's got their process and has to figure that out for themselves. And I just realized it's like every person I've met it's like you just, like I was talking about before, the check boxes, and you just meet people and you find your check boxes and you hit them all.
Yes, and we're so grateful that you guys were able to hear this story, because this has been so remarkable to find each other. Literally in April we matched, and then in May we became exclusive, and then in June we moved in. Like we went on a big vacation in June. First thing in July we moved in. It was like boom, 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 like 4 big events within like no time at all. And it's working. It's just that big leap of faith and feeling like, wow, there is hope after divorce. There is real beautiful like bliss, and you can find someone that's so much healthier for you, that's so much more compatible for you, that is able to honor and celebrate you, and not just that mediocre love. You're like able to have it all.
Yeah, it's like you don't want somebody who tolerates you. You want somebody who celebrates you, and that's what I've loved with Elisa. She celebrates who I am, and like really like I don't the good, the bad, and the ugly, and she gets like I don't ever feel judged by you, and that's been amazing. You give me the space I need for my personality to just do my thing, and we get to spend magical time together. And you know, we did go when we moved in. We went to Cancun.
Yeah, that was a huge thing.
And we went to a Joe Dispenza meditation,
healing.
Meditation retreat, and we had the time of our life. We had
the time of our life. It was literally like it felt like a grand honeymoon, and then we moved in. Like somehow it felt like this big like wedding celebration in Cancun because we were just like made love like wild animals, had all the good food and drinks. We went dancing. We saw like the most gorgeous beaches. And it was beautiful because we weren't just there at this resort. We were there for a spiritual retreat by Joe Dispenza, which is a brilliant neuroscientist that does so much healing help for people. But it is all about meditation. And we were doing like 4-hour meditations together. We were just snuggled up, like meditating in this hypnotic state of complete love, like pure bliss. And it was like, both of us were like, wow, this is the happiest I've ever felt in my life.
That was, the most fun I've probably had in my whole life.
Yeah, it was so special. So that we could have that, it really set us up for like success to have a grand tropical vacation together where we could just feel each other's love. And now we're doing it. And we're so grateful for everyone's following our journey because it can be scary to be single out there and it can be scary to go through a divorce. And we know those feelings. Like we have radical compassion on everyone who's suffering out there trying to figure out if they're going to divorce. And I'm grateful that we found each other so quickly. And I'm grateful you guys follow our story.
Yeah, and it has been such a journey, just such an emotional journey. And early on too, I just cry, and we just cry together. And you had a lot you hadn't processed from your divorce too.
So much I hadn't processed, and to see his tears, like it was actually really remarkable to meet such an emotionally intelligent man who felt safe enough to reveal his innermost world, and that like we could move in and just be like, hey, here I am, take me or leave me, like the good, bad, and the ugly, here it is. And we just both graciously accepted each other, and it's such a good feeling. Thanks, you guys.
Good. Thanks for listening, and you can share some of that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do more podcast episodes and more YouTube and Instagram. Our name on Instagram is Dream Traction, and that's a really beautiful business that we're running, and we would love for you guys to check out our Instagram too.
Yay.
Yay.
All right. See ya. Thank you.
Bye. Love you guys.